Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening to all those who are joining us here in India and from Dubai. Good afternoon to those joining us from the UK. And a very good morning to everyone coming in from the United States. My name is AVIS, and there is my soulmate Vaani.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, that's Vaani. So Vaani and I, we are the happynesswalas, and we believe our life's purpose is inspiring happiness. Vaani and I wake up every morning to inspire people to be happy despite their circumstances. We're going through a fascinating, life-changing experience, and you may want to look us up on Google. happynesswalas, happynesswalas, and you will find links about our story, about our journey. But just to give you an overview, we're going through a very challenging phase in our life. We're going through a crippling bankruptcy for the last 13 years. This means for the longest time in this phase of our life, we've been without work and without money. Worklessness and pennilessness has often been staring us in our face, and this has meant that it's been painful. This has meant that it's been materially very challenging and a very dark phase. And yet, in the same time, we've actually learned to accept life for what it is and celebrate it for the way it is. And we have learned to train our mind to be non-worrying, non-frustrated, and non-suffering. So if you have learned how to not pick up a worry, if you have learned to accept that you only have a right to your actions and that you don't have a right to the results, then you will be non-frustrated. And if you stop asking the why me question in the face of pain or in the face of a crisis, then you will be non-suffering. When you are non-worrying, non-frustrated, and non-suffering, you can only be happy. This is what Vaani and I have discovered. And when we came up with this realization, we told ourselves, hey, how can we share this with more and more people? How is it that we can make our life more meaningful and not only try to be successful, but how can we be more meaningful? How can we be useful? So on one side, success has been elusive. We have found that business is not coming by. We are not able to even cover our living expenses. And there is all the debt which needs to be repaid. So success is not happening. But how can we be useful even when we are not successful? We decided to use this awakening, this realization, and we put it to work. In 2014, and I'm going to share my screen now. Before that, I need to do a small administrative detail here and allow Vaani to be the co-host so that she can allow people to join the meeting. So I'm now going to share my screen. When we were struck by this realization, we said, how can we be useful while trying to be successful? How can we be useful? When we asked ourselves this question, we came up with this idea of sharing our learnings in the form of a book. So my book, Fall Like a Rose Petal, was published in August 2014. And the Tamil translation of that by Charu Kesi came out last year. Both books are available on Amazon. We also retooled our business, and we today run a small boutique consulting firm where we allow people to tell their stories, and through exploring human stories, we glean lessons on life and happiness that inspires managers to be happy and to be high performers. We also host 2 live reflective non-commercial conversation series in Chennai. Excuse me, my slides are not moving. Let me do that again. Yeah. Just give me a second. So we host these two live, reflective, non-commercial conversation series. They're normally hosted at the Odyssey bookstore here in Chennai. They're supported by Odyssey, but ever since COVID happened, we've moved the conversations to Zoom. Happiness Conversations explores the journeys of people who have every reason to be unhappy, but they choose to be happy, and we explore their journeys and learn lessons from their journeys. The Bliss Catchers is actually a celebration of people who have gone on to live the life that they want to live by doing what they love doing. The Bliss Catchers, this is the series that we are at today, is inspired by Joseph Campbell's philosophy of follow your bliss. Campbell, the American author and mythologist, said, follow your bliss and doors will open no matter what others think. So others may see only walls there, but you will be able to see those walls as doors, and those doors will open for you. Now, it's very interesting. Vaani and I, all through our life, have only followed our bliss. We've only done what we have loved doing. And we found those doors repeatedly open for us every single time. So when we decided to curate and host a conversation series where we can share life lessons with people, we decided to call it Bliss Catchers. And we've been running this series for the last 6 years. This is our 6th season. We've done 53 editions so far, and we have featured 105 guests so far. And we find 4 broad patterns emerging from our conversations. One, we find that systematically for all 105 guests, doors have opened. 2, we found that these guests have all taken the call to not postpone their bliss, to not postpone their happiness. They've always taken this call when they realize that the cost of not doing what they love doing is higher than actually doing it. So when they've reached that point, they've always taken that call. The third is, all these guests have repeatedly found and confirmed in our conversations that bliss is profitable. Many people think that if you follow your bliss, then your economic future is insecure, that you're not going to be able to make any money. But that's untrue, and that's something that we have picked up through our conversations. And the fourth is, so for your bliss to be profitable, for your bliss to be able to pay your bills, what you really need to be understanding is that you need to have a great passion for what you love to do, and you've got to become world-class at doing it. When you are good at doing something, money always follows. And the last thing that we have learned is that to many of these people, in fact, to all of them, bliss is not a hobby. It's not something that you do on the side. It's your entire life. In fact, I'll encourage all of you to, I'm going to minimize my slides and show you what I need to show here. At this level, 1 second, please. Yeah, I'm going to show it to you like this. It's faster because for some reason it's not moving. So I'll encourage you to watch this film called The Reason Why You Live. This film is on my YouTube channel, and this film is made by Ramnath Chandrasekhar, a bliss catcher himself, and a conservation educator. This film features the journeys of many bliss catchers. It's a short film, and it was made to celebrate the 50th edition of Bliss Catchers last August. And this is a beautiful film. It captures the journey of many bliss catchers and talks about why they believe their bliss is the reason why they live. So this particular series has been a celebration for Vani and me. It celebrates very happy people. It celebrates their beautiful journeys. And this particular season, season 6, the 2020 season, is dedicated to the memory of Bliss Catcher, Sri Krishna Shivakumar. He was an engineer, but who chose to embrace filmmaking. And he loved making films. He unfortunately died in the terrible tragedy that took place at on the sets of Indian 2 in February this year. So he went away following his bliss. Can you imagine what a beautiful life he has led, doing what he believes in, doing what he loves doing, and going away doing that. So this season is dedicated to his courage, it's dedicated to his conviction, it's dedicated to his happiness. A very happy man he was, doing what he loved doing. And Krishna featured alongside Flute Giant in the 4th season of Bliss Catchers in June 2018. So that's the journey of Bliss Catchers, and this particular edition that we have today is the 54th edition. Just to walk you through a few ground rules for today. We're going to be in conversation with both our guests, Apoorva and Palghat Ramprasad, all the way till 8:30. We do not have an audience Q&A segment in today's conversation. We will be having you leave your comments and thoughts and reactions in the chat box, and they'll come to us at the end of the conversation. All through the conversation, the audience will be on mute. And if I may request all of you, I'll greatly appreciate if you may turn your videos off at the time of this conversation, so that we can squeeze bandwidth. I'm recording this conversation. It will help us gain bandwidth. We already have over 50 participants, and some more may join. We do not plan to respond to any raised hands all through the conversation today. If you're having audio or video difficulties, it could be because of Zoom, and it takes a little time to sink in. Otherwise, you may step out of the meeting and come back in, and it should work fine. If we have a power outage at our end or an internet outage, I'd like you to know that we will be back with you in a couple of minutes, so please bear with us in that eventuality. My guests this evening are the wonderful, amazing, supremely talented Apoorva Jayaraman and Palghat Ramprasad, and I'm going to introduce both of them. Thank you, Apoorva, and thank you, Palghat Ramprasad, for joining us today. I'm going to introduce both of them. I'll start with the lady. Apoorva was introduced to us by another bliss catcher, Chinmaya Arjun Raja. Chinmaya's bliss is food and wine. Can you imagine? It can't get better than that. Your bliss being food and wine. So Chinmaya featured in season 2, 2016, July, on Bliss Catchers. And towards the end of 2018, he wrote me an email saying, Avis, you need to go to this website called www.apoorvajayaraman.com and take a look at it. And what Vani and I discovered when we saw that was amazing. Here's a beautiful story, we thought. But the way we work at Bliss Catchers and for our conversations is in September, October of a particular year, we are already curated for the following year. So we could not bring Apoorva into 2019 season, and we finally got her to be here with us today. We set up a coffee date with her at Starbucks, and over coffee, she told us her story. And we found in her passion personified. We found in her equanimity personified. And we found in her happiness personified. She used to live in Bangalore. In fact, she's joining this conversation from Bangalore right now, from Bengaluru. And she used to live in Bangalore. And when Kalanidhi Narayanan, her guru, invited her to join training in Chennai for Bharatanatyam, she was just probably in high school, Apoorva, but she took that bold decision to shift to Chennai, to find a new school, to live in a hostel and to train in dance. Then she goes away for multiple years to St.Stephens first in New Delhi. Then she goes to Oxford, and then she goes to Cambridge to do her master's and PhD in astronomy. All through her academic career, she stays in touch, coming back to Chennai again and again to train in dance. And just when everyone thought that she's going to now be an astronomer and be looking at the larger than life world around us, she decided to come back home to Chennai and invest her entire lifetime in dance. And the simple answer for that is she believes dance completes her. She believes that dance fulfills her. And she believes that she loves dancing because it makes her happy. And that's the simple answer, but we're going to explore how she came to that clarity and what are the key decision points in her life that she had to encounter. I'm going to explore that. Palghat Ramprasad, another amazing bliss catcher, and we were introduced to him through a play. For those of you who don't know this little trivia, Palghat Ramprasad acted in a play called Trinity, which is directed by the legendary P.C. Ramakrishna. And Vaani and I had gone to watch it towards the end of 2018 at Museum Theatre, and some pamphlets were given out. See, I don't have a great background in Carnatic music. I'm not an aficionado in that sense. So I didn't know who Palghat Ramprasad was. And when I saw the pamphlet, something in the pamphlet interested me. So I went ahead and looked him up. And I found that he had an interesting background. We set up coffee with him, again at Starbucks. And he told us his story. And we found a person who's very intense, very deep, very committed, and very happy with his music. Coming from a musical family, coming from being born into music, so to say, that wasn't surprising. But what is surprising is that he goes away and scales great peaks in the area of quantitative economics with a master's from the University of Georgia and a PhD from the University of Georgia and a postdoctoral degree from Harvard, works with and consults with several Fortune 100 companies, could have taken off at that point and retired in the big corporate league in America, but that's when life's most haunting questions came to him. Why am I here on this planet? What is it that I love doing? And how is it that I can do that in my lifetime? And those questions brought him back to India, to Chennai. In 2018, he quit his job, and he has taken the deep dive into music after almost being at the peaking point of his corporate career. So again, an amazing story there, and I'm waiting to explore it. I asked him why he does this, and he says, it makes me happy. This evening, we asked him, how are you, Ramprasad? And he says, happy. So that's the introduction to our Bliss Catchers this evening, Palghat Ramprasad and Apoorva Jayaraman. Thank you so much for joining us. Their guest numbers 106 and 107. Thank you so much for joining us. Are you feeling good, comfortable? Perfect. Perfect. Okay, great. So let me start with the lady first, with Apoorva. Apoorva, my first question to you is, when you were given the suggestion by Kalanidhi Narayanan, your guru, to move to Chennai, what was the thought process that you were going through? Because as I can see, you were probably peeling away from a comfort zone of friends, family, school, known circles in Bangalore, and you were moving to Chennai. So how did you take this momentous decision, which was to shape the rest of your life actually after that?
Thank you, AVIS. Thank you, first of all. Thank you to AVIS-Vaani for having me as part of this very, very important conversation. Can you hear me now? Is it good?
Yeah, it's good. It's better now.
And although it would have been fantastic to, be in the same room and share this conversation, I also feel it's a time in all of our lives where such conversations take on, you know, another dimension of meaning. So I'm extremely thrilled to be doing this now. To answer your question, Avis, let me tell you a bit about how I found dance. It happened quite early in my life, when I was in kindergarten, when there was a teacher by the name of Ratna Supriya who used to come to this little play school and actually not teach us dance, but she told us stories through the use of gestures. And, you know, while she recited these stories, she would use gestures and her facial expressions. So this was my point of sort of getting into dance and being absolutely fascinated by something that I saw and wanting to do it more. So I started very young. I started learning when I was about 5 years old. And thanks to, I think, the way I was introduced to dance by this very wonderful teacher, as well as my mother's perspective and the outlook that she gave me, dance became something of a playmate, I think, very soon for me. It was not like a hobby. I don't like the word at all. It was not a hobby I pursued, but it was a fun thing I did because every day there was a discovery. Every day there was something exciting, something fresh, and something that as a child kept me engaged. And I think this is something that I was shown, the fact that there is beauty that's been discovered sort of every day. And that is how I grew into dance, very honestly. And since I started so young, it was always a part of my life. And sometime when I was a teenager, around the age of 14, was when this great phenomenal called Kalanidhi came into my life. And I mean, one never knew it back then, but she became that invisible hand, I think, who kind of guided the course of the rest of my life by, like you said, that very tiny thing that she did. Which was a very crazy idea at that point in time. I think I was still in high school, and she told my mother, why is she, what is she doing, wasting her time doing school and all? Send her to Chennai, let her do dance, right? And it was just one sentence, but I think it sort of planted this seed in my head as a 15-year-old. And by this point of time, it's almost like, you know, how your friends at that age as a teenager become overpowering influences on you, where you want to watch the movies they watch, you want to, you know, do all the things they do. And I think dance was, by that point of time, exactly this for me. Because, you know, one fine day I told my parents, I said, you know what, I don't know if this same sort of, this same thing from mommy, I would hear, I don't know if I'd hear it 2 years down the line, 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line. I don't want to wait. I want to go. And I think it was also about what Kalanidhi Mami had done for me by that point of time, because I was only learning from her through modules of workshops whenever she came to Bangalore. So it was like once or twice a year kind of an engagement. But she really opened up that world as to how I saw the world of Bharatanatyam. It was always, you know, you're trying to scale like a little swimming pool and then a little lake. But suddenly there is this ocean that she opened out to me and said, you know, you can fly. You don't have to sort of, you know, take these little steps. There's so much. The sort of grandness of it, I think, was something that she really opened up for me. So then started that absolutely crazy idea. Now that I think back, I can see why it could have come as such a crazy thing even to my parents. But I mean, completely credit to them, because we really spent about half a year to a year debating this, discussing every aspect of why I would take, you know, whether it makes even sense for me to take such a decision. And finally, I was, like I said, I don't think I would have done it for anything else. But the answer always came back to, no, it's dance, so it's okay. I will, you know, I will brave this. And just to share like some funny memories I have as well. I mean, of course, we spoke about the bigger things, right? Living alone, managing finances, school. But I also remember one night, you know, my mom was really trying to test me, I think. So she told me, she said, you know, what would you do if you're living alone and a cockroach comes into your room? Wow. It's like, I even now I'm terrified of cockroaches. So for a moment I went like, okay, that's a very, that's a question I haven't considered. But like I said, it was absolutely anything. The answer came back to say, no, I will brave it. I will do this because it was for dance. So I did make that move to Chennai, which was a very, very, I think, educative, exciting time for me. I lived in a hostel, a working women's hostel, even though I was doing my class 11 and 12. So I joined school over there. So it was quite, what do you say? I would say it was an adventure, definitely. Managing finances for the first time, taking buses, Pallavan bus, and auto, all of these kind of things. But also the most fantastic, the most fulfilling time for me as a student of dance, because I spent those 2 years training in Abhinaya with both Kalanidhi Mami as well as Srimati Priyadarshini Govind, who I have sort of worked with and trained under ever since that point of time. So I think very, very crucial 2 years for me. And very fascinating.
Fascinating rendition there. First of all, a fascinating recounting of your journey. You braving everything for dance, including facing cockroaches in a room. I think that's, that is very, very brave, definitely. Also, the fact that I can feel, so many miles away from you, and I'm sure everyone felt it, the joy in your voice, the excitement, it's almost as if it's happening to you right now. And I think that that innocence of a high school girl embracing what she truly loves and believes in stood out. That's the beauty of Bliss. I'm reminded, when I was hearing you, Apoorva, I was actually reminded of my favorite poet, Jalaluddin Rumi, who says, remember God so much that you are forgotten. Remember God so much that you are forgotten. Let the caller and the called, let God, the creator, the caller, and the called, which is you, both disappear. Be lost in the call, he says. Be lost in the call. So the call is call of dance, which came through the invisible hand of Kalanidhi Mami, who invited you to Chennai. So you were lost in that call, and I think that was very evident, very powerful. Let me ask you my next question, which is has been intriguing me, although we did talk about it briefly over coffee the other day, some months ago, which is St.Stephens some years, Oxford some years, Cambridge some years, and you go to pursue physics and astronomy, but keep coming back to Chennai to maintain your connection with dance. Why would you do physics and astronomy if you already knew that dance is your bliss?
First of all, I must tell you even the title of this series has been something that has become now a favorite part of my vocabulary, because I think that's possibly the best way to explain first and foremost the place of dance in my life. I think it was always and is my bliss. I've never, at that point definitely, I was not thinking of it as a career prospect. I was not thinking of it as a means to an end, but in a way, dance was the end in itself. It was something that absolutely fascinated me. It was something that allowed me the possibility to grow and discover every day. And that was important to me. And so therefore, whatever decision that I have taken in my life henceforth, right, even the decision of, sort of taking up physics academically, I never had any fear of missing out. I never had any urgency to achieve or accomplish anything, and dance was very much going to be a part of my life. Secondly, I mean, for me, always, I think by that point of time, education, this idea of education was a very important part of my life. But education is not about teaching yourself a skill that will allow you to have a career or to earn money. At least I don't view it that way. I mean, that's vocational training. And for me, education was about the person I was going to become, the person that I was shaping myself to be. So it was very important for me to go ahead with this. Once again, I want to emphasize that I've always believed dance has been a very important part of my education. Just because I did go to school and do it does not mean that did not educate me. But the world of dance was different. I wanted to go out there. I wanted to meet the world. I wanted to discover who is this person that I am and who is this person that I want to become, right? So that was the main aim, first of all. So I wanted to go to college. I wanted to go to a good college, study something that I loved. And that's where physics came in. Like you said, I think that was also something inculcated in me as a child. To whatever you choose to do, even if it's a tiny little thing, you do it with involvement, or you do it because you love it. You know, you don't do it just for the sake of or heck of something. So, and physics, I cannot honestly sort of come up with this one dramatic moment or one particular thing that instigated me towards physics. But I think the just the spirit of inquiry, I think that was always there, even at home, in terms of how we were taught to approach, various things in our lives. So, and physics very beautifully allowed me to explore that world, and it was a subject that I loved in school. That was the reason why I went ahead and I did physics and St.Stephens, because I was looking at, what is the best place? Which place is going to give me the best environment for me to sort of take this forward? But at that point, when I finished my BSc in St.Stephens, once again, I credit to what really a good education is, because I think St.Stephens really did that to me, of now making physics into this extremely beautiful, larger-than-life sort of thing that one can really delve into. So honestly, I think it was by the end of my stint, my BSc, that I really started seeing parallels, and I said, oh my God, there's a world out there. Just like dance, there is an absolute world out there that one can explore. And I wanted to explore it. I honestly wanted to give physics, at that point of time, just give physics a fair chance to discover, what place does physics have in my life? Because I always knew one thing. I knew dance was here to stay in whatever form, that it took. But it was also a part of my life way too early for me to really understand what kind of a part of my life it was. And I needed to kind of bring physics on the same balance, right? For me to, if at all, ever, I was going to make this or that kind of a decision. So that took me to Oxford for a master's. And then, thereafter, I continued to enjoy what I was doing and sort of went on to a PhD.
So that's the way you really approached education as a concept, dance as your bliss, and physics as an equal opportunity player, where you give physics an equal opportunity to see where it stands. That's very beautifully articulated, and but then that was also the time when you were actually making trips back to India, and you were constantly in touch with dance. We're going to explore this a little bit more as we go along, but I'll go to Palghat Ramprasad now. I'll come back to you and pick up your story, Apoorva, but Palghat Ramprasad, to start your journey, let me ask you my first question, which is, let's explore a little bit about the kind of, decision you had to take to move away from the center of your kind of music, Carnatic music, the mecca of Carnatic music, which is Madras, Chennai, and go away to the US to academically qualify and pick up a career in quantitative economics. How did you stay connected with music? So that's what I'm seeking to explore. What did music mean to you growing up in the family such as yours? What did you do in terms of taking a decision to go? What attracted you to go to the US at that point in time, and then be there growing your career? And thirdly, how did you stay connected with music?
Namaskarams to all. My humble namaskarams to Sangeeta Pitamahar Shamagudi Singha's here on his 112th anniversary. I'm extremely happy to share the stage with Apoorva. And after your talk, Apoorva, I mean, there are so many stars around me, so only an astronomer like you should tell me what it is all about. Probably I can't figure it out as an economist or a musician. Yeah, so music, I mean, I pretty much grew up with music. So like how we teach, our kids Ramayana and Mahabharata. My father, who is the one and only guru for me until this point, he taught me stories of, you know, all past masters like Ramanujan, GN sir, then Shamagudi Srinivasa, Arathur brothers, Chembe Vaidyanatha Bhagavatar. Then, I can just go on and on and on. So my childhood memory of music has always been associated with the beatings, the thrashings that I used to get from my father. So that's the most vivid recalling of any kind of memory associated with music. So it's all about Appa's face, his angry face, trying to do something to me. It's just a physical assault or a mental assault. So that's all to do with my childhood. But honestly speaking, even my parents, I think the only concern that they had was probably how I was doing in music. I can tell you one incident. Probably I was in 8th grade or 9th grade. So my mom was also working. That particular day, she was home, and I had fainted in my school, and they called home and said that I fainted and probably somebody should come and pick me up. So my mom wasn't sure which branch of Padma Seshadri I was studying in. Not that she didn't care about it, but yeah, that's the level of what to say, connection that they had with me outside of music. So apparently, the neighbor, she made like a very educated guess. She said that, you know what, he takes a cycle to school, so it has to be the Lungambakam branch and cannot be KK Nagar. So through the process of induction, they deciphered that it has to be, Lungambakam, and they came and picked me up. So I would say that my childhood entirely was about music. It was nothing else. Several concerts when my father also used to accompany music. I remember at least a few times. He might reject now, but I do remember that he would not remember which grade I was in. So right after a concert, when somebody comes and asks which grade is your son studying in, he'll just point me to him and he'll say, "Mama Tekrabar, Chole." Why can't you say that? He doesn't know. So that's how it was. And what was the second part of your question?
Second part of my question was, how did you then make, with that kind of deep rooting engagement with music, on the environment, உங்களை embrace பண்ணிட்டு இருந்திருக்கும்போது, you took a decision to pursue a career in economics and went away to the US. So what prompted that decision? Was it a painful one?
Okay, there is one part which is serious and one part which is funny but serious, right? And honestly speaking, I didn't have this much of clarity, and I still don't think I have as much clarity that Apoorva has with my life. So I just know that I love music and I'm doing it. That's all. So in the late 90s, perhaps I was very blessed to have been accompanied by all legends of, in Mridangam and violin. It starts from Aragiri Swami, Kandadevi Aragiri Swami, Thiruparakural Veeraravan, Untitled Jayaraman Palghat, Trichy Shankaran. You just name the doyens. I was blessed, not because I was a great singer, because I was born in this family. So I had a head start, obviously. So everyone has accompanied me by then. And I had a very, very good visibility in the late 90s for those times. And that is when I was pursuing my graduation, undergrad. And typically the question comes, right, whether I'm going to choose this as a career. And those times it was not very lucrative to take music as a profession. Definitely not as much as it is today. And sponsorship concept was like just budding then. And yeah, this marketing, this kind of this PR and marketing was not like brazenly out there. So I wasn't too sure with the kind of the values that I held then, whether it was okay for me to pursue this as a career, whether it would be lucrative. And that's when I decided, probably, why should I be known if it is Ramprasad, either the family or my friends? It's always about music. Can I be known for something else? And the easiest option here's the funny part. The reason I took a master's in economics is because Vivekananda College was like less than a mile from my house. That's the truth, right? And why MA Economics? Because Vivekananda College did not offer an MCom, because my undergrad was in BCom. So it all happened for convenience. So that's how it started.
You only stumbled into a career in economics.
No, I didn't stumble actually. It was a conscious choice of being very comfortable in life.
You're being very, very, very candid. This is
That's the truth.
remarkable candor. So, and then you grow in that career. You do your masters here, then you go and do your PhD at University of Georgia. You do postdoctoral degree from Harvard. And having been a business journalist at one point in time, I've had the opportunity to research and write on Fortune 100 companies, and I always thought, what would it be to feel like to work on in some of them or be connected with some of them? And you've actually lived that life. So corporate life in America is very exciting, very it's very seductive. You at a very crucial time, if I'm not wrong, it's 2011. You make a decision to come to India, A, and B, you around 2016 you actually start feeling very restless, even keeping your corporate job out of India. So what was going on at that time? What prompted your decision to come to India, and what was this restlessness? What kind of questions were you encountering within yourself?
Right. So to answer your first part about coming back to India, it was only a question of when. Even when I went to the US in 2004-5, I was never planning to stay there so it was just a question of whether it's going to be like after 6 years, 7 years, or after 10 years or 12 years, not beyond. And as you rightly said, this kind of restlessness started not because of one or two incidents. I usually don't make decisions based on one incident. I never get inspired by just one thing, because I'm always careful about being not reacting to something as a knee-jerk reaction. I'm very particular about that. So for any major decisions, I let time to pass through, and because I would like to really know whether I have that consistency in my mind frame. Because I'm a kind of person who doesn't make decisions very fast. So
it was one event. So what was driving this restlessness? If you look back, what kind of questions? Why did these questions like who am I and why am I here and what is it that I love doing in the கேள்விகள்லாம் எப்படி வந்தது உங்களுக்குள்ள?
Right. So even after I came back 2011-12, when I slowly started getting back into the Carnatic music field, performing concerts, it was around 2014, 15, and 16 when I started to cancel concerts at the last minute, because my work pressure would be so high, and sometimes I had to like really travel abroad, and certain projects in multilateral and bilaterals, they don't allow you any cushion to postpone your trip. And already with a lot of constraints in accepting concerts, right, starting from the kind of accompanist that I have, the time slot that I perform, and the kind of sabhas in which I perform, I had a lot of constraints. To top it, after all this, if I had to cancel concerts at the last minute, it's not really okay for me. That sense of it talks bad about my commitment to something. And I was always thinking probably I was using music as an excuse to be performing at a less than optimum at work, and using work as an excuse to be performing less than optimum in music. Right? I could always cheat myself saying that, what, if it was a bad concert, I had a project yesterday to deliver, but nobody cares. People who come to listen to my concert, they come for my care. They don't come for my concerts to ask me, how did your project go yesterday? And vice versa, right? Who would care whether I'm singing Arabi or Deva Gandhari in a concert if I were to deliver a project? So I was definitely operating at a suboptimum in both levels. So that's when I thought that probably this is not going anywhere. And 2015-16 is when I started deciding, because in both sides, music as well as my my corporate / academic side, I was at a crossroad. I could have just really gone in for the full pull and gotten out.
We lost you.
Myself, like this economics is something which is very recent.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. So I was asking myself whether economics is recent, or it has been in me, or whether it was music. The obvious answer was music. And that's so probably I had a relative advantage there.
That's how you made the choice. Look at how candid this gentleman is. This is amazing. I was working at a suboptimal level. I was giving excuses for my music, citing my projects, and giving excuses for my projects, citing my music. And then he asks himself the big question: what was deeper inside me? Was it economics or was it music? I think all of us encounter, and this is where I want to draw a learning from Ramprasad's journey. all of us at different times in life come to this question on what am I doing with my life? I came to this question pretty much like Ramprasad did in his mid-30s. He encountered them. I encountered them in my mid-30s as well. I mean, why am I here? What am I doing with my life? And this is a very important phase in anybody's life. You know why? Because you've gone through academic growth, you've gone through professional growth, you've gone through financial growth, or the lack of any of these things, and you're coming to a point where you're understanding that probably half your life is over, and what are you going to do with the remaining half? And that's when you wonder, what is the meaning of life? If you look at it intrinsically, life doesn't have any meaning. You come with nothing and you'll go with nothing. In this interregnum called this lifetime, you will gain knowledge, you will make money, you will buy assets, you will build relationships, you'll create memories, and you will not be able to take any of these with you when you go. So what is the meaning of life? You give meaning to your life by choosing to do what you love doing. And I think that's the decision point that Ramprasad encountered, A, based on his move to India, and B, in the 14, 15, 16 time frame when he realized that he had to decide between one of them. We'll come back to you, Ramprasad, and continue your journey in terms of how did you actually make that decision? And I have a couple of questions there, but I'll go back to Apoorva now and pick up the thread of her journey, which is, Apoorva, you kept that connection going with Chennai. You put yourself through a lot of rigor to continue to learn dance. But Ramprasad was at a crossroads, but were you at all at a crossroads when you finally graduated from both once from Oxford and later from Cambridge, in terms of a qualitative research opportunity or a high, high paying job opportunity, career opportunity that you had to decide on and say, no, I've got to let this go. I'm going to dance. So was it difficult? What kind of thought processes did you have to go through to finally come back to Chennai?
So for me, I think the sort of last couple of years of my PhD, I think was that time when I started seriously thinking about, what next, right? What after this? I mean, that was the first time I started asking that question. But through these last 2 years, it kind of became clear to me that it was actually not a tough answer at the end of the day, because once again, I seem to be coming back to that same understanding of I had spent all of the last 8 years or 10 years of my education trying to become a certain person, but now it was time to sort of go out and be. That was like the sense that I had inside me. And I think it was about, I was asking myself questions like, where would I contribute best? Where would I be most fulfilled? These were all the questions that were coming to me. And it seemed to me that I could do all of this and be myself most authentically with dance. I knew I would have still been a happy person and I would have enjoyed doing astronomy history. But, everything sort of fit together and it felt right and it felt dance. And this was something that sort of evolved. This argument was something that was an internal conversation, through those last couple of years of my PhD. So by the time I was writing up, which is the last 6 months or so, I was extremely clear that I was moving back to India after this to pursue dance professionally, full-time, for sure. I did not apply for any astronomy jobs at all because it seemed unnecessary, futile to do that. I mean, if you did something, you should do it because, your heart is in it. And I didn't want to do it as a backup option, definitely. So I came back, I submitted my thesis in 2013 and I came back, I think by November of that year. And I landed up in Chennai, started to hunt for houses to stay in because it was a completely fresh stint for me in Chennai now. No comfort of a school, a setup, a training methodology. I was all sort of out on my own, but I sort of made that decision, I think it was obvious. Honestly, it's not something that was a very tough sort of a dichotomy that I was facing at that point in time.
Very interesting, very interesting. You know, you have this amazing clarity about what works for you and what does not, and you're too young to even now to be having it, and you were perhaps very, very young when you had it, when you were graduating from Oxford and Cambridge. Why I'm picking on this is everyone around you, look around you people, you know, look around us, look at yourself. Everyone is out on that race to become something. There is the whole endeavor is about you know, trying to attain something, trying to become something. And here Apoorva uses a very powerful phrase. What is it that I want to be? It's not about becoming. What is it that I want to be? Now this being, the state of being is in flow. It is not a goal. It's flowing. And that state of being is in the present continuous. The state of being is a state of celebration. And what is it that can cause that celebration in you? That is something that if you crack that little secret code, then you cracked the meaning of life. Rumi again, I don't know why Rumi is coming back to me, but Rumi again said that everyone is made for a particular work. Everyone is made for a particular work, and the desire for that work has been placed in every heart. So if you uncork that desire, then like champagne, bliss flows. And that's what I'm seeing in your decision. You were not at a crossroads because all you wanted to be was just be, you know. Amazing, so beautiful. But now I want to continue the point that you were making, but you were also in a state in Chennai, coming back in 2013, where you now had to set up an economic model for yourself. You didn't have the comfort, as you said, of a school, you know, of parents living with you. You know, you had to set up on your own. So how did you make your bliss pay your bills? You know, it's a very practical question. What kind of a model did you work on?
Honestly, I don't think there is a model, Davis, and that's the tough truth about, I think, the field of arts. I mean, well, it could be a good and a bad thing. The fact that there is no paved out path that you tread on, I mean, that's exciting for me. But of course, that also means that you arrive already knowing very well that, you know, life is absolutely not easy. And I think that's also the reason why this sort of balance, a lot of as artists try to maintain a balance with perhaps another job and, you know, dance or job and arts on the side, because you do not want the pressures, the economic pressures of your life to begin to reflect in your art. And this is something because, you know, we've had these conversations very often, and it's something, in fact, my father did tell me several times. I mean, you know, he suggested, he said, you don't want to pressurize your art form and make decisions for the sake of money. So he said, really think about it carefully. You can do it full time, but don't depend on it for your bread and butter. And I think that was, I mean, that honestly is very wise advice. But the one thing, like, you know, Ramprasad said, that the one thing that was running in my head throughout, this was a tough decision for me to kind of balance at that point of time, because I had no answers to where I was going to start. I didn't even know what my first step was going to be when I, you know, went into Chennai. But this idea of the fact that dance is not a 9-to-5 job, arts is not a 9-to-5 job. And in my case, my alternate profession, physics, neither was that. And, you know, this, I knew one thing that I would definitely find it very difficult to deal with is having the dissatisfaction of not delivering 100%. You know, if I took up both, then I would be expecting out of myself a certain, you know, 100, you know, over 100% in both areas. And you cannot do that if you're going to draw, you know, timelines for them. So I think finally that was one thing that made me choose. And also, now looking back, I realized that that decision paid off. I told myself just one thing. I said, so far as I keep having a buffer, an economic buffer, I don't think I'll ever find those avenues and spaces within dance that will help me economically sustain myself, because they are not obvious. And so I just decided, it's like jumping into the 16-meter university. Just jump in. You will, you have to drown or swim. There's like only two ways about it. I have no answer to a model. Even looking back now, can that be made into a formula and say, yes, I did all of these things and it worked out? Not at all. But when you keep looking, when you keep your eyes open, I think you find forums, you find work that will sustain you. Continuing to make decisions like, am I doing this only for the money, or am I still doing it because there is something of interest in it? But for me, it was just, I think it was a tweaking in the head to start looking at dance as work, as story, as profession. And that did everything. And I think, you like you said, you're sort of in the flow, you will find the answers, and you have to, because, you have decided to sort of take that up as your bread and butter and your bliss.
In the flow, you will find the answers. That's a very powerful line. And the other powerful line I'm picking up is from your dad. Don't let the economic pressures affect the form of your art, the performance of your art. That's what he meant. And I think this is where we all need to pause and reflect. What do we need money for? Having lost all our money, I can talk about it from an experiential point of view, that we've understood both the importance and impermanence of money. And so we've understood the difference between need and want. And if you understand that your needs will be provided for by life, through projects, through avenues that will open up, and that's what Campbell says by way of saying doors will open when you follow your bliss. For that, you have to take the first step in that direction. When you take the first step, then you're in flow. And then life wants you to live that life, because that's what you're ordained to live as a dancer, as a musician, as a painter, as a writer. And so when you take that route of predictability of happiness, then the economic model kind of rides parallel with it and covers all your needs. That's how it works. There is no model, there is no formula, but you go through it day by day by day, month by month, and that's how you live with it. That's been our experience as well. I'll come back to you, Apoorva, for one last question, but before that, let me go to Ramprasad here and continue his journey. So Ramprasad, how was the final decision to quit? So you were at that crossroads and you had to decide what was it. And you finally quit in 2018, I know. But how difficult was it to take that decision? What were you giving up? What kind of a life were you giving up to decide to invest yourself full-time in music? I wouldn't use the word invest, sorry, cancel. I'm going to say to immerse yourself in music. That's better for you, knowing you and your music. And what kind of reactions did you have to face from family? What kind of support systems? How did you deal with all of that?
Yeah, I am typically in the spectrum of being extremely risk averse to highly risky. I'm somewhere close to risk averse.
Okay.
So that kind of a person I am. So in fact, if I think about those people who have taken their decisions when they were like in their early 20s, I'm like really, it gives me so much of happiness, and I really respect their decision because they have so much of clarity. And it took so long for me to make a decision because I was risk averse, A. But the one good thing was that even the jobs that I had, I usually used to have like a multiple counter offers which used to pay me, which promised me to pay much more than what I was actually doing. But I knew that I wouldn't have a life there. I would have money, but I wouldn't have a life. And I am extremely happy that my wife was okay with that. I mean, yeah, totally. I mean, she could have just said that, you know what, just take that offer which pays you like 2 or 3 times more. Why would you? And well, I just said that probably. I mean, I would give you all the money, but I would just see you probably a day in a month. Otherwise, I would be flying. So that's a conscious call. And so all my job offers, the ones that I took, were totally in the mix of something which would give me the time to pursue my music, but also be challenging enough for me to pursue a career using my economics training. So that was always a conscious choice. As far as how the other members of my family were supportive or whether they were skeptical, obviously, I mean, like the kind of positions that I held, they were really high paying. So the one decision that I took was I would have to, my wife was also working. So I wanted to ensure that if I took music full time, it should not be a burden for my wife. She should not feel that, oh, he has quit his job, so I have to work. So I always kept her equation out. So I always wanted to find that if I take music as my full-time profession, will I have enough for her to be comfortable? If she wanted to decide that she wants to quit the job, she had to quit the job and she should not have this economic pressure. And based on this, it was brewing for some years. So I just wanted to get to that optimum, which would give me like certain times of the household expenses that I would be able to meet if I take music as my full-time profession. And once that happened, I just tested it for a few months. Yeah, it worked. Then I said, okay, fine. So that way, I'm extremely risk averse. I planned it in terms of the timing of my quitting. But I knew that I was wanting to do this. So if not for 2018, probably it would have happened in 2028 or 38 or before I died.
But it was waiting to happen, and you took the plunge.
Yeah, I did.
I like the way you present yourself, and you present your story with absolute candor. I am risk averse. Not many people will come forward and admit that. Uh, but you know that in the self assessment of being risk averse, you've actually dared to do something that very few people would do in their mid-30s. So this by itself, it calls for a lot of courage, and I think that courage comes, if I'm reading it right, comes from the fact that you ask yourself a very important question, and this is the learning for the audience. I would have a lot of money, but I would not have my life. Music is your life, then that is that important question that he answered with such clarity, that I would have a lot of money but not my life. And the compassion with which you approached it, I mean, you talk about planning, but I think you also approached it with a lot of compassion, saying, I need to plan it in such a way that my wife should not feel the pressure of one income down in the family. And I think that's amazing. You're blessed, Ramprasad, to have thought through this well, B, for having a supporting family, and C, for the plan to have worked out. In our case, for Vaani and me, the plan never has not worked out in 13 years. Every plan that we kind of conceive of is taken like a ball of wool, knotted up and thrown away. And that is where we've learned a very important lesson, that the grand cosmic design does not have any flaws, because if it had not been for this prolonged bankruptcy, there would be no awakening. If there would be no awakening, there wouldn't be this Bliss Catcher conversation. I wouldn't have met you wonderful people, and wouldn't be in conversation with you people. So everything, I think, happens to a larger plan. But to be able to process a micro plan through that larger plan itself is an achievement, and congratulations on that. Let me ask you a very pertinent question. Ramprasad, Palghat Ramprasad, from the illustrious family of Palghat Mani Iyer, being born in music, thriving in music, நீங்க வந்து, do you feel that you have come back a decade too late on the scene? Do you encounter at any fleeting moments, do you encounter regret, remorse at having delayed this decision? How do you deal with those emotions when they come by, especially when you see in English, that there is a lot of chaos, there is a lot of clamor out there for supremacy in the space, and with your kind of talent, do you at all feel that you're coming late?
See, I'll answer this in two parts. Yeah, if I think about what I have lost, yes, I have lost a very good head start that I had. And when I came back, it was like, I mean, there were people who I never even heard of, but they were in limelight. I was asking myself, like, am I just, trying to slice this way too much? But then there is a cost to it, right? I mean, everything has like a pro and a con. I mean, everything is a trade-off in life. Nobody can just take off my PhD. Yes, I'm probably late, but nobody can say that I'm undoctoring you. So it's fine. So again, this gets back to my, risk averseness probably. Yeah, and that is the price that I pay for that. And if I look back, the reason I'm having a conversation with you, as you rightly said, is because of each and every event that happened. It could be good. It could be like a very, an event which I was comfortable with, an event that was uncomfortable with. I mean, everyone faces. I mean, everybody has a lot of baggage. If I ask about your problems, you will have like 15 days to tell me like 20% of your problems. If I ask Apoorva's, if I ask Vaani's, if I ask my father's, everyone has problems. Who doesn't have a problem? Now you have a clear choice. Okay, you can talk about your problems and spend all your life whining and complaining, or you could probably positively take it the way you explain your life as to how I can learn from all the things that were unfavorable to me or the ones that I considered unfavorable then. But now when I look back, those are actually not unfavorable ones. Probably they are destined to happen the way they happen. That's the reason I'm here. So it doesn't make sense for me to think of the past and say that can I go back and change the past? Actually, to be honest, I wouldn't go back and change my past. Yes, I have a lot of issues with my past, but I don't want to go change it. I'm in a really good place, so I'm happy about that. And neither do I want to think that like those 10 years. I'll ask you a simple question. What gives me the guarantee that 10 years I would have really made it really big? There's no guarantees. It's just my own thinking that I lost those 10 years, and if had I been here, I would have gone up. Who knows? What if I developed a voice problem those 10 years? So there's no guarantees.
Such an evolving, spiritual point of view there. I've learned of it from experience, and so I can relate to it. A detached determination. Only a person with detached determination can even articulate it the way you did, Ramprasad. You nailed it. What can I do with my past? That's why தமிழ்ல வந்து பாஸ்ட்க்கு நம்ம வந்து யூஸ் பண்ற வார்த்தை வந்து இறந்த காலம். The dead past. அது ஒன்றும் செய்ய முடியாது. அது இறந்து போச்சு. ஸோ இறந்த காலத்தை பத்தி யோசிச்சுட்டு இருக்கிற காலத்தை கை விடுறதோட focus on the present. And so you could have come back in 2028, you could have come back in 2038, but you came back in 2018 into the world of music, and you're living that life that you so deeply love. அதுக்கு மேல வேற என்ன வெல்த் வேணும் வாழ்க்கையில்? I think that's what I'm hearing you say. And I feel that this is again grace. This is blessing. That you have this sense of detached determination towards life. Amazing, beautiful. I'm going to finish my conversation with Ramprasad with one last question, and then go to Apoorva for her last one, because I'm in flow with Ramprasad right now, and I'll just go and wrap it up with him. What does your bliss do to you, Ramprasad? நான் 2 தடவை உங்க கான்சர்ட் அட்டெண்ட் பண்ணியிருக்கேன். Honestly, both times I couldn't attend them fully, I must concede. But I don't understand music. So நீங்க என்ன ராகம் பாடுறீங்க, நீங்க என்ன கர்நாடிக் மியூசிக் எனக்கு புரியாது, என்ன ராகம் பாடுறீங்க, அதுல what are the nuances in it தெரியாது. But one thing I've noticed both times, that you are in a complete state of rapture when you're singing. So when you're singing, what does your bliss do to you? And இன்னைக்கு இருக்கிற கான்டெக்ட்ல இந்த COVID-19 உடைய challenges, uncertainty in the space of performing arts எல்லாம் வச்சு பார்க்கும்போது, do you feel any of your decisions is under review right now, or is your music helping you there as well?
Okay, so to come back to the first point that you mentioned, that you don't have much knowledge, great, you will be less critical. Okay, you'll be able to enjoy much better than someone.
I thoroughly enjoyed your music though. Yes.
Yeah. So probably because of that. I mean, had you been knowledgeable, probably would have been like analytical. In the Rishabh in the and the Gandharam, okay, I love it. Probably you were in a state of bliss because I mean, you don't care about the technicalities. I mean, this is like any other art form, right? I mean, you enjoy a piece of painting, not knowing like what kind of watercolor this guy used. Like you enjoy the painting because it gives you like a visual high. So this gives you like an auditory high. That's it. I mean, there is nothing more to it. Why should we slice and dice it? As long as it is pleasant, it is pleasant. That's it. So that's the first part. Yeah. What does the bliss do to me? Honestly speaking, I cannot articulate it well enough because it is an experience. I cannot articulate an experience. Words will definitely fall short. I mean, I can say that I'm extremely happy. I'm elated. I mean, like, what does it? I mean, what does it convey to you? It is those are just positive words, but experience is something very different. So when I align in, let's say, a note, or when I'm just immersed in singing one specific sangati, I mean, like, I want to align with what I think of it as like an absolute truth, which is like that's an ever. I mean, it's like a process which is never ending. It's an eternal chase. It's an eternal quest, and you know for a fact that the that the more you try to go near it, it's going farther away.
Father.
But the journey and the earnestness in which you approach, that gives you that bliss. You know for a fact that this you have practiced like a 15 million times. So it's fine, I fail, it's fine. But I know that I have worked towards it very earnestly. So that kind of the truthfulness and the genuinity in which you approach the journey, that gives you that bliss more than the actual experience of whether it happens or not. You can still feel that bliss when you slip in one or two sangatis. You'll still learn a lot. You come back home and you say that, you know what, yeah, I practiced this 15,000 times. Now I know that it doesn't work with 15,000 times. It's going to be 20,000 or more. So there is a learning to it. So that way, probably I can say that it's the journey that's more important than what you think of it as an end point. That end point is like an eternal thing. It's an eternal quest. You can never reach it. As far as COVID thing is concerned, honestly speaking, I don't care about it. Think about it, like 6 months back, would you have ever thought that there is going to be something called COVID? No. This is not under our control. What is the point in thinking about it? Let it be positive or negative, right? I mean, there is absolutely nothing that I can do about it. The only thing that I can think about is like, how can I use my time to practice better, right? What can I do to improve myself as a musician? That's it. And there are so many positive opportunities. Like I get more time to teach my students, so that is a positive thing. And I get to technically train myself more than just being on a concert agenda practice. So these are positive things. And like MS Dhoni says, he doesn't care about the weather. Right? What would he do? Caring about the weather or the toss? Whose hands is it? Nobody's hands. So who knows? Probably tomorrow we can hear something about a vaccine coming in. Probably we might see like a even worse thing that is happening more than COVID. Like why to even get there? The only thing I should think of is like what I want to do, which is practice.
Isn't this beautiful? I'm thoroughly enjoying this very deeply lived experience, lend the spiritual perspectives. So the journey is the reward. Rumi solirkare. You are explaining it to me through your journey of seeking the truth through your music, and you finding that every time you walk towards the horizon has moved forward. पंडित जसराज और दरवाजा सुनना ना कहते हैं इसे क्षितिज की तरफ जब आप बढ़ोगे तो वो हमेशा आगे बढ़ जाएगा. It keeps moving, the horizon keeps moving. So beautiful there. And why talk about something that's not in your control, whereas do what you can do with the time that's available now. Celebrate it. I think that's what I'm picking up. I'll now go to Apoorva. I do have a few learnings from you in that last segment, but I'm going to save it for what Apoorva is going to say and then bring it all together in the closing part of today. So Apoorva, what does your bliss do to you? How does your bliss help you deal with the pressures of everyday living? And does the current scenario caused by COVID-19 cause you to reflect on any of your choices in any way different from that you have already done?
I think honestly, I mean, Ramprasad has said it so beautifully, and I'm completely agree with everything that he has said, because to me, I think it's the same thing. I mean, through dance, it's about, it's that excitement of sort of every day stepping infinitesimally closer to that something which, it's not a defined point. It's not a tangible defined point. And, like he said, it's something that constantly gives you something more that you can step towards on an everyday basis. So, and I think that's what it has been. For me, I definitely think my influence about how I've perhaps viewed art has come from childhood, from home, because, this has been a household where we kind of heard Carnatic music, plenty of Carnatic music growing up. And, listening to people like, M.D. Ramanathan or Madhuramani Iyer or something like that. And there is, you cannot articulate those things in words, those experiences of listening, forget about, being the artist, but you're listening to a Sahana or something like that. And that moment is something that is indescribable. And I don't think those experiences change no matter what's happening in the world around you. And that's what all of us are after, right? No matter what our profession is. And I think for us, it's through the modality of art. And therefore, once again, I mean, definitely, if anything, this time gives you a lot of time to step back and revisit and remind yourself of why you're in it in the first place, even if at all, because I think that's honestly a risk, like we were talking about this earlier, the economic model, or about the need to market yourself or where you are. Unfortunately, it's a one-man show when it comes to, classical dance particularly. You're doing everything surrounding this world to sort of create your profession. So there may be the fear or that slight risk of, spending or investing too much time, much more time than required in these other elements. So I think it's been a great time to just pull back, realign, and re-remind yourself why you're in it. And I think it's not something that I can pen down or articulate and say, this is what it does to me.
And what does the process of dance do to you in terms of helping you? Do you go through those kind of dissolving experiences while dancing?
See, I would like to always say that is the aspiration. And because my aspiration or my models have been, like I said, these, legendary musicians or dancers, like watching a, Kelucharan Mohapatra do a Radha for 45 minutes, or watching Kalanidhi Mami do a Padam, and come. I've seen moments where she has been lost in that world that she has created for us. So I think it's too far-fetched for me to say that that's what happens to me, but that is the aspiration, and that is what, like, every session is towards. Stepping towards that, I would say.
My takeaway from what you said is this is a good time to revisit and re-remind yourself on why are you here in the first place in it. I think that's extremely powerful. And to take that attitude, again, both of you are so young, and Apoorva much younger. How do you even get this kind of grace? I'm just spellbound. When you see the world behaving in a very maniacal fashion, wanting things, and you are celebrating something which the eye cannot see. And you can't hold it in your eye, but you can hold it in your mind's eye. There are no words, and that's the beauty of bliss. Bliss is something, and I'm thankful to you for being candid about it again, Apoorva, in saying that you're aspiring to be there where you feel lost in the call, but at this time you're only witnessing others go through that experience. Osho says this very beautifully, and he says, when the dancer becomes the dance, when the musician becomes the song, when the speaker becomes the thought, magic happens. And so that is the value of bliss. So you can't see it with your eyes, you can only feel it. and you can own it, and it's precious, and you want to hold on to it. So thank you for telling us what Bliss does to you. This is amazing. This is a very beautiful conversation. But I am going to head towards wrapping it up. I must thank you both, first of all, for taking time, talking, and we kind of piece together the journey of both of you wonderful people. Apoorva says, why not give physics a chance? I know it is going to be dance, but why not give physics a chance? And then when what she has given a chance for, chances to kind of invite her, entice her, seduce her, she says, no, I think I'm committed. I'm going to be with dance. And that's great clarity, great conviction, and great courage. Coming possibly in her mid-20s, when she was leaving and taking that flight from London Heathrow back into Chennai to start her life as an immersive dancer. Ramprasad, candor again, born into music, goes away to build a career in quantitative economics, succeeds to the largest extent in that space, and demonstrates that same clarity, conviction, and courage in turning around and deep diving into music back again, because he believes that he would have made a lot of money, got a lot of acclaim, but he would not have had a life. You know, on the Bliss Catcher show, we have had many guests, but this is the first time we are having a combination of Pattum Bharadamum, and speaking with such spiritual clarity, with such simplicity, and reminding us that COVID-19 is not a pressure point. COVID-19 is probably causing us some discomfort, but it's beyond our control. And therefore, let's move in the direction of the immersive quality of our life, which is bliss. And I think that's a wonderful showcase for what bliss can do to you. And we have two living examples over here, Palghat Ramprasad and Apoorva. Thank you so much. If it had been at the Odyssey bookstore at this hour, live, we would have given you your trophies and mugs. Apoorva, sorry, we couldn't even reach the trophy and mug to you because of the lockdown in Bangalore. But Ramprasad,
I will share it for her.
Yeah, you can show it up. Yeah, that's the coveted Bliss Catcher trophy. Can you hold up the mug, sir?
Absolutely.
There's a nice coffee mug there that makes coffee taste blissful in it. So you'll have that soon, Apoorva, reaching you. Thank you, Ramprasad, for showing.
Apoorva, I won't use it until you get yours.
Oh.
That's amazing. That's an amazing gesture. So, thank you again for both of you for joining us and making this possible. I'm going to do a complete wrap. I'm going to take away something very, very powerful from both of them. But what I'm going to do that is to lean back on an amazing Bliss Catcher himself and lean back to his work from 1962. And this is for all of you over there who are listening to this conversation. And this is going to be a celebration, people, because we're talking about COVID-19. We are talking about fear, insecurity, uncertainty, dealing with life and life's challenges, our own existing life challenges, and adukku mela oru periya kalla thooki pota madri this COVID-19. So how do we deal with this? 1962 la ivar sollirukkaru. Ivar per Kannadasan. Padam per vandu Sumai Tangi. C.V. Sridhar direct பண்ண படம், ஜெமினி கணேசன் நடித்த படம், குரல் கொடுத்தது P.B. ஸ்ரீனிவாஸ். நான் பாட போறது இல்லை. M.S. விஸ்வநாதன் and ராம்மூர்த்தி வந்து இசை அமைச்சாங்க. பாட்டுடைய வரிகளை கேளுங்க. மயக்கமா கலக்கமா, மனதிலே குழப்பமா, வாழ்க்கையில் நடுக்கமா. Those are the opening lines, and they're so true today. மயக்கமா கலக்கமா, மனதிலே குழப்பமா, வாழ்க்கையில் நடுக்கமா. And then he goes in the second stanza of the song. The poet writes, ஏழை மனதை மாளிகை ஆக்கி, இரவும் பகலும் காவியம் பாடி, நாளை பொழுதை இறைவனுக்கு அளித்து, நடக்கும் வாழ்வில் அமைதியை தேடு. உனக்கும் கீழே உள்ளவர் கோடி, நினைத்து பாரு நிம்மதி நாடு. Now put this in the context of COVID-19. Put this in the context of your choice of what gives you happiness and your choice of perhaps postponing it for another time. And you will find the magic and beauty of this man's truth. So he says the mind is scarce. The scarce mind is always worrying. It's infested with worry. It's infested with suffering. And he says, ஏழை மனதை, the scarce mind, மாளிகை ஆக்கி, எப்படி ஆக்குறது? இரவும் பகலும் காவியம் பாடி. So he's a poet. So he's saying, do poetry. But you're a dancer, do dance. You're a musician, do music. You're an explorer of stories. Go ahead, explore more human stories. Write, cook, do gardening, do whatever you love doing. Iravam pagalum kaviyam padi, do what you love doing and make it an offering to the supreme creator, to someone who you don't know. I mean, people popularly call this idea God, but I'm just saying there's a higher energy that we can't scrutinize. We can't even fathom. And the higher energy ki kudutittu, nadakkum vaalvil, here I differ with the poet. Nadakkum vaalvil amaidiyai thedun solraru. Theda vendam thanave varum. Because if you are immersed in what you're doing, you will enjoy it. So, and then he says, unakkum kizhe ullavar kodi. There are a lot of people who are deprived of many of the things that you have. So be happy with what you have. That's the message that I'm picking up from both your conversations. That spirit of immersion, that spirit of joy, and the varnikka mudiyatha or quality of bliss is what we picked up today. So fascinating there, people. I'm going to conclude with a couple of announcements coming up from us, programs coming up from us. So I'm going to do screen share again, and I'm going to show you our next program is a beautiful conversation that's coming up with Vidya Shankar over there in the Happiness Conversation series. This is on the 29th of August. It's a Saturday. Vidya Shankar is an amazing woman, a very courageous woman who has faced up to decadent social norms. She has gone through futile, failed fertility treatments. She's gone through shaming by family and society for her inability to bear a child. And she has faced depression after her hysterectomy in 2017. Yet she took all her pain, which could have crushed her. She took all her pain and poured it into her art. And she is an acclaimed poet who's published 2 books, and we're going to explore her journey. Vidya Shankar, join us on the 29th of August, Saturday, 7 p.m. here. If any of you has not registered for receiving our invites and for being part of our mailing list, please do that. The number on which you need to send your name, email ID, mobile number, and the city that you live in is 91 for the country code, 98409-78823. I repeat, 98409-78823, and we will add you to our non-spamming mailing list. So on that note, I'll stop share. I'll stop the recording. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone.